something that, a topic that actually lends itself quite well to these little adventures as I'm driving around. It ties into the saying that the grass is always greener. And I get to see people who are, they're taking their summer holiday in Germany. But they live in Holland, so taking their summer holiday in Germany is really just, going for a bit of a drive that's not necessarily that huge a distance. Or somebody else who grew up in Glasgow, so they're sharing photos of Glasgow from 30 years ago. And I'm like, I really love, I've been to Scotland and I absolutely adore Scotland and I want to go back to Scotland. And I find myself sort of yearning the travel bug thing of like, I really want to travel because, I want to go somewhere special. And then I stop myself because I realize the irony and I guess in some ways I guess the hypocrisy of that, especially when at the moment I'm driving in a nice car through beautiful countryside and I actually live in the countryside, and I have to acknowledge that I live in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Now, I want to clarify that. I'm not going to get into the whole, Australia's better than everywhere else. There are so many beautiful places around the world. I think the advantage of Australia is because it's such a big piece of dirt, is that we have lots of different styles of landscape within Australia. So, and because Australia's so big, Australians are very used to travelling long distances. My wife and I drove to Adelaide and back in one day. That was 1,800 kilometres in one day. But in that journey, we went through lots of different types of terrain type, I guess, different biomes, etc. So I guess where I'm going with that is that I get this, I want to go somewhere pretty, and sometimes forgetting that I am somewhere pretty. I remember when I was living in Tokyo, at the time, Anna, my now wife, was also in Japan up north, living in sort of a farming region. And I was in Tokyo teaching English to the people in Tokyo. And I'd often say to them, oh yes, my then girlfriend or fiance is living in Aomori Prefecture and I'll be going back up there soon. And they were like, oh, Aomori? Why would you want to live in Aomori? Because it's this farming area. And I'd always respond, Aomori's beautiful. Why would you not want to live in Aomori? Aomori is stunningly beautiful. You live in Tokyo, which is crowded and busy and noisy. Why do you live in Tokyo? And it was interesting because a lot of Japanese people who live in Tokyo would respond, oh, but Tokyo's amazing. Like, Tokyo's got everything. Tokyo's got museums and live music and art galleries and amazing temples and incredible entertainment things. Ah, okay, fantastic. When was the last time you went to a museum? 10 years ago. Great. When was the last time you went to a gallery? 7 years ago. Why do you live in Tokyo? Now, this is not specifically having about people in Tokyo, but this is the same as almost anywhere. Part of my work was traveling. I would make the most of those opportunities. If I was going to Los Angeles because I was speaking at a conference and doing studio tours, I would make use of, the day I arrived, I didn't have anything on. And so I would walk around Los Angeles and see as much as I could. I would go to the Modern Art Museum in Los Angeles, or I would go to one of the other museums or one of the galleries or whatever. And I'd mention that to people who I was meeting up with, and like, oh yeah, I've been meaning to go there, I should go there. Oh, how long have you lived in Los Angeles? Oh, my entire life, 35 years. And you've never been to this gallery? No, I've always meant to. And I think this is the problem. This is part of this whole grass is greener thing. We get obsessed with, I'm going to go to London and I'm going to go to the National Portrait Gallery and I'm going to go to the British Museum when I go to London. But I'm not going to go and visit the San Francisco Conservatory when I live in San Francisco for 40 years of my life. And I'm not going to go and visit the Tokyo Fine Art Gallery, even though I've lived in Tokyo my entire life. There's this weird thing of we think that the British Museum is amazing, which frankly it is, but we think the British Museum is more amazing than the museum that's in our own backyard. And often it actually isn't. It might feel amazing because you're on a holiday and you're having a wonderful time, but we are really terrible at not noticing what's in our own backyard. So again, we're too busy standing on a hill, looking at the hill over there, saying the grass over on that hill's really, really pretty. What about the grass on the hill you're standing on? And in fact, here's another perspective on that. If you're standing at a point, let's just say you're standing on a hill and you're looking to the east, and the east looks absolutely beautiful, and you're looking to the west, and the west looks absolutely beautiful, and you're looking to the north and the south, and they both look absolutely beautiful, then can I suggest you're quite possibly standing in the perfect place? Because if everywhere else looks beautiful to you, then perhaps you're standing in the right place to appreciate those. And I'm not suggesting if you're in a bad job, that means that if you're in a bad job, you should be staying there. But the studio that I worked for the first 8 years of working in the game industry, I used to think it was terrible. It was terribly disorganized, and we were overworked and underpaid and all this stuff. And some of those things were definitely true. But after having seen other studios and other workplaces, I'm not entirely sure that the first place that I worked in was really that much different. That in itself is a bit of a sad state, but we can sometimes get caught up on not appreciating where we are right now at this point in time and wanting something more. And I think we need to, what's the term, stop and smell the roses? Perhaps instead of looking off into the distance, we paid a little bit more attention to what we have right now, who our partner is, who we are with, where we live, who our friends are, who our colleagues are who are sharing knowledge with us. What have we got right now and what's its value, rather than hanging on to what the next thing might be, the next step on the corporate ladder. I mean, that's something that I'm sort of glad that I've moved away from. I don't know that I ever really had, but this kind of ambitious, I've got to climb the corporate ladder and become more important and have more authority and more influence and more this and more that. It's a little bit like, children desperately wanting to be adults. I'd be fairly happy spending a fair bit of time being a child who could spend all day playing with Lego rather than, the responsibilities of being an adult. I don't know that there's an exact clear point or message or lesson in this video. It is a little bit of a rambling exploration, but I think, where I am right now, this is not the prettiest of the drives that I've done. It's mostly cloudy. The sun is out there. It's sort of picking up behind the cloud. But, oh my Lord, I have the freedom to be driving a car down a road making a video, which means I can afford the time to do this. I can afford to own a car. I'm not hungry. I'm not worrying about where my next meal's coming from. I know that when I go home, my wife and my 2 cats are going to be there. I think I need to do a video on contentment. In fact, that's going to be the very next video I'm going to do, because I think that's important to understand. I'm going to leave this one. This has been an exploration. If it hasn't been super helpful, then I apologize. But I think we need to assess what we have at any point in time. Thank you for watching if you watched this far.